Good morning. I came here for 2 weeks and then disappeared. People have been asking, where are you? I've been home. I was happy to visit my family. I have a very large family. I could not visit everyone. But I'm happy to be back and to serve you. Dear friends, these 2 Sundays, last Sunday and this Sunday, the Lord is giving us quite very difficult teachings, things that are contrary to what we are used to in our society and in our life. Last Sunday, he told us, when you hold a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers or relatives or wealthy neighbors, but invite the destitute, the poor. Today he tells us, if anyone does not hate his father, mother, wife, children, brothers and sisters, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. These are contrary to what we practice in our daily lives. We have friends. We have a list of friends. We have those we call our friends. We have family. That's our greatest value. But the Lord is telling us, you have to hate them. It seems like a contradiction. It's a complete reverse of our human practice. But what does the Lord really mean? What does he want from us? The book of wisdom in the first reading tells us, and the writer wonders, who can conceive what the Lord intends? Who knows his ways? What does God want of us? Which way does he want us to take? He gives us the family as the highest value, and now he wants us to hate them, to renounce them, and follow him. What does he mean? Dear friends, Jesus is precisely teaching us the cost of discipleship. There is a cost we have to pay in order to be good disciples of Christ. He himself paid that price for our salvation. As we read in the epistle, Philippians chapter 2, verses 7 and 8, St. Paul tells us that Jesus emptied himself and took the form of a slave, and he died for us. Dying on the cross. He emptied himself. And the price he had to pay for salvation was his own death, carrying his cross and dying that we may be saved. And that is the cost he's inviting us to pay. That's the cost of discipleship. We have to leave even our biggest comforts. He left his comfort in heaven, and he came to us, took the form of a slave in order to save us. So when he tells us, if you do not live and hate your brother and sister and mother and father, and even your own life, you cannot be my disciple. That's what he means. Not to hate them, but hate here is given in a sense of loving them less, putting God first. He must be our priority in our lives, against and above all that we can think of as our love, our family, our possessions, our life. He's inviting us to give that up, because he gave that up for our salvation. For he says, whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Now, every time a cross is mentioned, usually what comes to our minds is suffering, pain, and death. But the Lord transformed the cross into the symbol, the perfect symbol of love. The love that comes from the Father through the Son and spreads without ending by the power of the Holy Spirit. That's the cross, and that's what he tells us to carry every day, to take his love to the end of the earth. And to love is to sacrifice. He sacrificed himself on the cross, and he's inviting us to do the same, to sacrifice for his people, that his people may be saved. For he says, no one has greater love than one who gives his life for those that he loves. Dear friends, it is on the cross that Jesus showed the highest level of love for humanity. On the cross, Jesus died for all, not for his family, not for his friends, but for all, friends and enemies included. Sometimes I wonder, say, if Jesus was to have a Facebook account, would we have a list of friends? We have social media accounts, and sometimes people invite, request us to be their friends, and we turn them down and say, I don't think so. We have a list of friends, but Jesus loved all of us equally. Thus, the way of Christ, the way of disciples of Christ, is the way of the cross, the way of love. St. Paul, in the second reading, gives us an example of that selfless love. He writes to Philemon, who was a master of Onesimus. They tell us that Onesimus stole some big amount of money from his master, Philemon, and he ran away. He went to Rome, and in Rome he found Paul, and he converted to Christianity. And now Paul is pleading on his behalf, and he's writing to Philemon, please receive him back, not as a slave, but as a brother. He's pleading for him, not just to be received as a brother, because he was supposed to be killed at that time because he ran away and they had stolen from his master. But Paul, if you read the entire epistle, Paul says, I am even willing to pay all that you owe him. Paul is going all the way for this man, for his friend. Dear friends, that is the call we are invited to take. A call, a cost of discipleship. Love that sacrifices. Friends, our human love is most of the time exclusive. We have friends, we have a list of friends, and we also have enemies. Those who say, they are not my friends. Our love, most of the time, is a scratch my back, I scratch your back. But the Lord today wants us to take our love to a higher level, to a divine level, to a perfect divine love, a complete reverse of our human love, a sacrificial love. Yes, God's way follows a logic of reversal. It's not, his ways are not our ways, but he wants us to learn from him. Who emptied himself, he wants us to empty ourselves for the sake of his people. The way of the kingdom is like going to war against unholy in society. If we take this way, preaching love, forgiveness, right of life, right to life, of course we shall definitely face opposition, but we should never give up. That's the way that saves. That's the way, that's the cost of a disciple of Christ. And as the Lord tells us in Matthew 25, those who will sit at the right hand of his Father will be those who saw him here in need and served him. May those words that he says, come and sit at my right, be pronounced over us after serving him, after carrying our crosses here and following him, putting him number one in our lives, setting our priorities right. Be heard over us, for you served me. Come and sit on my right.